What's up everybody, Anime X here, and in this video I'll be ranking Hunter x Hunter characters in terms of power, starting from 10, and then leading all the way up to number 1. So if you guys want more content, make sure that this video gets a lot of support, and so without further ado, let's get started. For the number 10 spot, I have Killua in the Chimera Ant arc, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for Killua fans about this, but while Killua did beat up 2 of the Royal Guard, in one case he only beat one up with 10% of his power, and in the other case he ran out of power too quickly and his attacks weren't strong enough to do permanent damage. And Killua is still in the top tiers of the Hunter x Hunter verse, but due to his lack of stamina and lack of heavy hitting attacks, and also lack of experience, I can't place Killua any higher than number 10 on this list. At the number 10 spot, in the next person on this list, I have Zeno Zoldyck, Killua's grandfather, who is known as one of the most deadly assassins to ever live. We even see him and his son go toe-to-toe with Chrollo, a pretty powerful person himself who may or may not appear on this list, and although Zeno doesn't have too many feats in the series in terms of lore, he should be another top-tier Hunter x Hunter character. Now, at the number 8 spot, I know that I have a lot of people from the Zoldyck family on here, and I swear that this will probably be the last one, but they did just happen to be a very strong family of assassins, and my reasoning for Silva being on this list is very similar from my reasoning of Zeno being on this list, and my only reasoning for him to be above Zeno would be that he is much closer to his prime in terms of power, and also Zeno trusted Silva to be powerful enough to take Chrollo down if Zeno gave him the opportunity. And while this probably wasn't the case, this proves that Zeno thinks Silva is stronger, and which goes a long way when ranking characters. And with that being said, I think it's time to talk about someone on this list that isn't from the Zoldyck family. At the number 7 spot, we have Shaiapouf. As one of the Royal Guard, Shaiapouf was bound to be on this list, and this is due to him being able to embarrass top 10 level hunters like Morel, and was able to also handle about 90 of his smoke clones. Also, a big part of why he is here is the lore of the Royal Guard being these freakishly strong creatures, which would be true, and what holds him back from being higher on this list is the fact that he got demolished by Killua. Yes, I know that was him at only 10% of his power, but he stated himself that at full power, it would still be difficult to catch him while Killua was holding someone on his back. But I believe he would still end up beating Killua just because Killua does not have the stamina to maintain a fairly even fight for too long. With that being said, I think it's time to move on to the person at the number 6 position. At the number 6 spot, we have Chrollo. Now, this entry into this top 10 may surprise you, but Chrollo is extremely powerful and a force to be reckoned with, and was even able to take on both Silva and Zeno Zoldyck, 2 legendary assassins, and he mostly did this with one hand since he was holding the book in the other. The reason Chrollo makes it this far on the list is due to his Hatsu giving him the ability to use other people's Hatsu, which is a very powerful ability, but it does come with many drawbacks, and one of those would be that he has to hold the book. It is because of the current drawbacks of his Hatsu that I cannot place Chrollo any higher on this list, but it is also because of his Hatsu that he could be this high on the list, or on this list at all. In the number 5 spot, we have Youpi, yet another Chimera Ant that is part of the Royal Guard, and also the one that seems the most brutish and physically strongest of the Royal Guard in terms of Nen. He has a massive amount, so much that it is almost impossible for Knuckle to bankrupt him because the interest wouldn't be enough to drain him. And he would pay off the Nen interest in one shot, and which is pretty impressive because Knuckle's APR is a very, very powerful Hatsu that most Nen users can't just shrug off his attacks, and it is due to his sheer physical strength and massive amounts of Netero that he's 5th on this list. But it is also because he relies solely on his physical strength that he's limited to the number 5 spot on this list. Now, at the number 4 spot, we have P2, and now I know by placing P2 above Youpi, I'm subjecting myself to scrutiny by any of you guys that think that Youpi beats P2, but I personally think that they are close enough in power that this spot on this is kind of interchangeable. And the only reason that I put P2 higher is just because she has shown that he's had an amount of Nen comparable to Youpi's because her N was able to encompass a 2-kilometer area around her, which is pretty impressive. Also, her senses are extremely acute, which would help in a fight. And the main argument that I make is that I don't think Killua would be able to manhandle P2 the same way he did with Youpi and Poof. But she obviously lost to Gon, so she can't be placed in the top 3, but still ranks extremely high on this list. At the number 3 spot, we have Gon in his adult form, where he sacrifices his body in order to obtain his peak amount of power, which was stated to even rival Meruem's. This statement comes from P2 when she feels how much raw power and Nen that Gon is exuding. It's obvious that adult Gon surpasses P2 based on the way that he utterly demolishes her, and the reason that he was able to grow so much in power from normal form is because he basically makes a Nen contract that allows him to bring out his full Nen potential in exchange for his life, and he uses all of this Nen to beat P2. I know a point that people might bring up is the fact that he had his arm cut off by P2, but this is only due to Killua stopping him from finishing the job and distracting Gon from P2 using Dr. Bleth to revive herself. Now, some of you guys might think that Gon should be at the number 2 spot on this list, but I'll explain why Gon would have to rank below them when I talk about the number 2 spot. At the number 2 spot, we have Netero, the most powerful hunter and the only one that could even hope of fighting the Command Arc King, and even brought him to near death by sacrificing his body. And although he didn't put him down for good in the actual fight himself, he was the only one that could even attempt to attack the Command Ant King, which is extremely impressive and a very good feat in and of itself. Besides that, the reason he's above Gon is because while Gon was stated to be approaching the level of Meruem, he wasn't completely there, and Meruem would not be beaten by brute strength alone. And that is why Netero came so close to killing Meruem in their fight. Some honorable mentions for this video are Jing Freaks, Hisoka, Illumi, Phaeton, Kite, and Bisky. And you may disagree with what I'm saying because Hisoka gets a power boost in the manga, and Jing Freaks is stated to be one of the top Nen users. But I'm not using the manga for this video, and Jing Freaks doesn't have any feats, so this is why Hisoka wasn't really on this list. And as for everybody else, it was definitely a struggle to decide who needed to be in the honorable mentions and who would make it on to the list. And I hope you guys don't hate me for these characters not being on the list. But with the honorable mentions out of the way, it's time to go over the person in the number 1 spot. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody knew that Meruem would be in the number 1 spot if you've watched HunterxHunter, just because of how much of a true beast he is, literally and figuratively. He's able to take down Netero, the most powerful hunter at this point, and is able to essentially tank many of Netero's most powerful attacks, and the only reason he almost loses is because Netero nukes Meruem, and even after this, he's able to barely cling to life, and is able to be revived by the Royal Guards, and after this, he gained both of their abilities, which made him even stronger. Not only was Meruem strong, but he was also one of the smartest beings on the planet and was able to adapt to his situations extremely quickly. Meruem was only killed because of the poison and the nuke that he was hit with, and if it wasn't for that, there wouldn't have been anyone be able to stop him due to all the abilities that he has. In terms of power, Meruem surpasses all the Royal Guard by many, many times over, and is even shown to be able to casually deflect attacks that can bust mountains, which is extremely impressive, especially when compared to other HunterxHunter characters. And if you could just imagine for a second Meruem going on a rampage without the nuke killing him, you could see why he's at the number 1 spot. And with the number 1 spot being said, and getting out of the way, I think it's time to close out this video. I would just like to thank everyone that made it this far in the video, and another Rival Series video will be coming up soon, so be on the lookout. And if you want to see more content like this, consider subscribing and hitting the bell, and also consider following me on social media to keep up with all of my YouTube related posts. And as always guys, this is AnimeX, signing off.